So welcome to our first Cameo Clinic. I'm Hannah Nicholls, one of the directors at Cameo. We're joined by my co-director, Julie Allan.
Hello.
And Tracy Filler from Cameo Training. And
hello.
Emma Browning, also from Meraki HR.
Hi.
We wanted to say a big thank you to everybody who's written in with questions. We've had a real choice from employees and also employers. So we've chosen 10 questions, 4 which will be more in detail, and then we've got 6 quickfire questions for you as well that we're going to be answering. So let's start. So first question is actually for Emma, and it's from a candidate. They have said, I have just completed my first week of furlough. I see on the news that companies may begin redundancy consultation soon because the furlough scheme only runs for the next few weeks. My usual contract has 3 months notice. If I'm put on notice of redundancy during furlough, am I entitled to my full salary during that notice period? And as an alternative to redundancy, does an employer have to consider a request for reduced hours and salary? I would rather remain where I am for 4 days a week than go through redundancy and the pain of finding another job.
Okay, so I'm going to take this in sort of 3 parts. The first part of this is refers to the fact that the furlough scheme only goes on for the next few weeks, and actually it's now been extended to the end of June. So I think that's an important point to make your candidate aware of. So actually it's been extended, so that gives employers and employees a bit more time to figure out what is actually happening as a response to the coronavirus. So I think that's the first important thing to mention. The next bit was about the notice, and absolutely, if you are put on notice of redundancy, then you do get your full pay during that notice period. Okay, so it reverts back to your full pay, not your 80%, which is what the furlough is paying, up to a capped maximum of 2,500. And the alternative to redundancy and that request for reduced hours or reduced working days, this is always a difficult consideration, but it is a consideration that the business does have to think about. So part of consultation is, a key part of consultation is actually people coming up with ideas and suggestions as to how the business can avoid the redundancy. So what's really good here is your candidate is thinking about alternatives to her role being made redundant, which I'm sure her company will be really appreciative of. However, and it is a big however or a but, you know, potentially that job may not be able to be done in 4 days a week. So the business needs to consider the pros and cons of having reduced hours. What I would say is, from an employer's perspective, they do need to give fair consideration to reduced hours or days salary, whatever you want to call it. 4 days a week might be possible, because clearly as a business she might be able to do her 37 or 40 hours across 4 days. But if she's looking to reduce her hours as well as her days a week, you've got to think about the content of the job, and can that job physically be done in 4 days a week? Because it could impact service to clients. It could put pressure on her other colleagues who are still in the team, who are possibly full-time. So there are a number of considerations a business has to think about before accepting the reduced hours. Okay, but it's a really great suggestion, and I would encourage that candidate to think of other ideas. I think the last point to make is, if you are thinking about reducing your hours, it's far easier for a business to find somebody perhaps who's willing to do a job share, if it's a more even split of hours and days. So as an example, somebody doing a 3-day week, and then somebody else can top up that job with maybe a 2-day week, or doing 2.5 days, for example. So that might be an easier option for a business to consider, as if there's a more even split for that job share, perhaps.
Great, thank you, Emma. That's really helpful. That's really good. I know that question was, there are a few areas there to cover, so I think you've covered that really well. Thank you for doing that. Fabulous. Okay, so the second question, this is for Julie, and this is a candidate question. They have said, I was temping when all of this started and lost my job as a direct result of this. A friend has said the agency should have put me on furlough through them as I was employed by them at the time. Is this true, and what should I be doing about it?
Another popular question. So from my understanding, yes, the agency you're working for can indeed furlough you. An agency worker, though, to be clear, is someone who has a contract with an agency and works temporarily for a different employer. And whilst you work temporarily for this employer, your work is controlled by this employer and obviously not the agency that employs you. But let me firstly assure you, I would imagine, and I would hope that every single agency is doing their best to support you. I would encourage you, though, to talk to your contact at your agency and find out their position, as every agency has different situations they're facing. So questions could be, how many temps do they have? What's their volumes like? Does the employer see you as a long-term opportunity, you know, after coronavirus, if they want to carry on working with you? Do they use a third party to run their temporary payroll? Because this can create an additional PAYE number, which can cause extra problems. And also the big one is cash flow. Can the agency actually afford to furlough you, especially if there's high numbers? There's so many factors to consider, and as I said, I'll just talk to them, find out the reasoning behind their decision and see if they can help you. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I think talking at the moment is the one thing that we all just need to do more of, isn't it? So yeah, that seems like
that helps. Just talk, because everybody's human and everyone's got a different situation and different stories. So
yeah, absolutely. Okay, thanks Jules. Okay, so the next question, question 3, is a client question actually, and this is for Tracy. So Tracy, they have said, the client has said, I now have a large proportion of my workforce working from home. How can they remain productive in this new environment?
Okay, this is quite a broad question because it kind of depends where they've been working previously. It goes without saying they'll be working in a very different environment to what they're used to, and there are a lot of people working from home at the moment that have never ever worked from home. So you've got some real challenges there, let alone the environmental issues of the pandemic. People are having to negotiate working with pets, with their children, and perhaps homeschooling or nursery children. So I think first thing I would say is you need to have some acceptance that there might be some challenges around continued performance levels and looking at what's realistic in the climate. Presumably these are key workers that are able to continue doing a high element of their workload from home. So I've made that assumption. There's a couple of things I would suggest you check on a one-to-one basis, because there are nuances around each individual. So, you know, what distractions are they replacing the office distractions of colleagues with by working in the home environment? What equipment are they working with as well? Do they have an area they can go and work privately? Because that's another big factor. Are they sitting on a kitchen bench? You know, you need to consider all those factors in place as to how long it's realistic for them to sit looking at their screen, and actually have some acceptance that you might want to change the work pattern. So for example, it might be that some people, once they've got their children to bed, might be able to work more effectively if it's not requiring opening hours of their clients in the evenings, and not expecting people to be at their desk logged on for the full 8 hours, because most people, even in their ordinary working environment, will be having some time away from their desk. So really, I would say the first thing is to set out some parameters for each individual, and perhaps as a team as well, so that there are common grounds for how that works. I also think that having regular catch-ups, either topping and tailing their day or their week, depending on what they're used to, will be a very valuable thing to put in place. I would suggest, I know a lot of clients are working with where they've got 365, they're living on Teams, or little written messages to keep in touch with their team, but also holding virtual meetings. Other platforms that are being used a lot, Slack, and of course Zoom, which we're on now. The other thing to think about is what KPIs are relevant in the workplace that can translate to the home environment, and go with the most important that keep the business wheels turning. And the final thing that I'd really thought about is, that I thought might be useful to think about, is the home policy, home working policy. If you don't have a home working policy already, then you definitely need to put one in place. But also quite a few clients are looking at putting coronavirus specific home working policies in place that can take care of the what if situations and allow people to have a greater steer. And I think the more contact you have with them, the more planning you put in place and help them with what Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday looks like, the more productivity you'll see from your team, both as an individual but as a cohesive team as well.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. That's really helpful, because it's difficult for us all, isn't it? You know, we all may be used to a day or two at home, but when you're working indefinitely from home, it does change the premise of how we work, whether as an employer or as an employee. So it's nice to have a steer and some boundaries and parameters around that.
I think the one that that I've not mentioned, which I hope it's okay for me to just interject on that, Hannah, is the emotional effect that it's having on people as well. That social distance isn't just while you're shopping. It's happening with that, you know, we go to work. I think we're recognising we're going to work for more than just getting a job done. We're there as part of a team, and it's really important to keep some of those things going, to keep the spirit high, I suppose. I can't think of another way of phrasing that.
Yeah.
But different people it affects in different ways. And as a manager, distance managing, because that's the other factor. For the first time, you might be distance managing your team, not seeing how they're behaving in the working environment, that you lose some of those cues. So that's why you need to have more communication rather than less.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Tracy. So the next question, question 4, is one that I'm going to answer, and it's from a candidate. They have said, it would be interesting to know the candidate's rights, or if there should be any concerns regarding participating in a video interview. I haven't done one yet, and I'm not too keen either. Now, with this, I think this question, we've had quite a few around video interviewing, as it is a new concept to a lot of people. And firstly, I'd say interviews aren't natural for many people, whether it's a telephone interview, whether it's a face-to-face, or whether it's a video call. You know, they all offer challenges on their own. However, the first thing I would say is it is your choice as to which interview you move forward with and you engage with. However, if an employer is choosing a different platform, whether it could be video interviewing, especially at the moment, and it's something you're not comfortable with, I would also question, is it that this role is right for you because that's their chosen method? Therefore, at the very beginning stages, if you're uncomfortable, then maybe listen to your inner voice and think, okay, is this the right company that I want to be working for? But also I would question, is it actually more the fact that it is a concern over your confidence regarding using new technology? You know, what is actually stopping you? Because these times, they are good for encouraging us to be able to get out of our comfort zones, and also it promotes growth. You know, it's a great way for us to challenge ourselves and to keep the recruitment process moving, which is really important. So I would say it's important to potentially just consider becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable in these initial stages, whilst trying something new. I think we're going to be seeing more video interviews along the way, as it has been a very useful platform for so many businesses to be able to engage with either employees or job seekers and conduct interviews, and it's having some really positive results. So rather than maybe looking at the concerns, some things that could help you maybe more around making sure that you are fully briefed before your interview. Have you spoken to the employer? Do you know how many people to be expecting to talk to? Or has your agency briefed you fully as well? Hopefully by being briefed, you can relax and you can know what to expect that bit more, which will of course help you. I would also say focus on what you can control. So practice with friends and family. Set up the environment or the staging of where you want them to take place, again, so it encourages familiarity, so that when you are on your call, it again, it's another tool to be able to relax you and put you at ease. But video interviewing is a great tool to be able to get things moving, like I say, and it doesn't need to carry any worry or concern. You know, focus on the reason you're there, focus on why you are having an interview. And also, if it is a job that you really love and you are really excited by, then you don't want to turn it down and be perceived as somebody who's resistant to change. You know, be brave, take that step in practicing with friends and family, and give it a go, as it is something that I'm sure that we're going to see more of. So fingers crossed, by becoming more familiar with it, you'll be able to conduct them with more confidence.
Yeah, nice answer.
Yeah, I was just going to add on to that they are there at the end of the day being interviewed, unless it's including video technology. They're not there for their savvy on how to work on a video platform. They're there for the role the skill sets for the role. And there's an awful lot of this out there, and people learning their way. Probably the interviewer is learning their way on how to run video interviews as well. So they can learn together, and maybe there are other people not as brave as them that will pull out of that opportunity, and by being brave they might well make it over the line and get the job they want. Absolutely,
totally agree.
That's what I was going to say as well, because lots of interviewers will be really nervous about doing video interviews themselves. They really will, and there's nothing wrong with saying, is there, I'm scared, bear with me, I've never done this before, hold my hand through it. And they probably relax them as well, because, you know, not many people enjoy video interviewing.
No, exactly. And it is a relatively new concept. I think we're all quite familiar outside of an interview environment to FaceTime friends or family, or have Skypes and things like that. But when you are in an interview situation, you are concentrating on why you are there, which is for the job that you are interviewing for. So this is just one of those little hurdles to be able to get over. It's a new platform, it's a new channel that we're all adapting to. So just be kind to yourself with it, whether you're an interviewer or an interviewee. And like you say, just be honest and work together on it. So those are the in detail questions. We've now got our quick fire questions, and actually we're coming back to you, Tracy, with a client question, which is the first quick fire question. We are conducting more meetings online and noticed your recent article to help get online meetings running effectively. What would be your greatest guide?
Oh, well, I popped the top 10 in there, of course. I think probably the thing I've learned, because I've had to migrate my coaching to the online, the virtual sessions, and one of the things that I'm using for group sessions to keep me safe overall would be take time out at the very beginning to walk through the controls and how you plan to use them in that meeting. They might be different. So for example, I've become a big friend with the thumbs up symbol on Zoom, because that allows me to speed things up. I'm not having to catch up with everybody every time. I can have a quick visual that everyone's on board or they're with me, and that speeds up. Or it can gain consensus on you can use it as a voting tool as well, if you're trying to get through quick things on the agenda. So that would probably be the biggest thing, is take time out to make sure, especially if it's the first time people have been on the call, make sure they know what all the controls are, but then definitely agree how you're going to use them in the meeting.
Yeah, fab. That's great. Thank you. Super. So the next one's to you, Julie. It's a candidate question. What would you advise regarding temping in this climate?
Okay, well, I would say, as always, temping is a great option, and it's a great intermediate if you're in between jobs or you know, looking for something to fill your time. There's some really busy sectors out there at the moment, such as pharmaceutical, logistics and delivery, of course, as we're all locked up. Shops are closed, and online shopping is, it's been enjoyed by many, doing their gardens, for example. Food demand's increasing as we're all eating much more, piling on the pounds. So if you fit into those areas, then that's fantastic. But obviously, if you don't, then I would say it's quieter and just relax, enjoy the time, enjoy the sunshine if you can. But most will just be safe, and hopefully there'll be some plenty of work for you.
Thank you. Great. Now we're going over to Emma. Emma, this is a client question for you, and we've had quite a few actually regarding furlough. So this is a furlough question, which is, as an employer, can I keep in contact with my team if they are furloughed?
Absolutely. And I think we've all touched on this already, haven't we? How important it is to keep communicating with people. Just because somebody's on furlough, that doesn't, stop your relationship with them. They are still your employee. In fact, the letters that we created for our clients were, we actually gave a little kind of bit of information at the bottom, which was how can we contact you? So either a personal email address, a personal phone number. So making sure you've got those contact methods in place is really, really important. So just as Tracy was talking about keeping in touch with your employees who are working and you're having virtual meetings, I'm suggesting to my clients that they also do exactly the same with their furloughed team. So if you're having a team meeting and that's once a week, your furloughed employees can still come along to that. They are not working. So, this whole kind of, but you can't work, that's not working. That's keeping you informed of what's going on in the team, what's going on in the business, and you are still part of that team, you're still part of that business, and you're still an employee. So absolutely, really keep that communication going, because you don't want your employees, when they do come back to work, feeling distanced and remote from the business that they are part of.
Absolutely. I think this is a real thing that we've heard so many times by speaking to so many different people, that it's that blurred line between is social distancing, social disconnection. And it's like, well, no, connection is more important now than ever to keep in touch. So
yeah. And I think, working is very different to communication. So that's the key thing with furlough. It's not working.
Yeah, and the whole premise of furlough was to keep people connected as much as possible to business and not have them entering into the benefit system. So it was about that connectivity. And I think, Emma, I think I'm right, that the definition is around people that can't contribute to the sales of the business, but anything that's to inform or train is allowed under the furlough agreement.
Yeah. So training is allowed, information is allowed. I'm not sure it would say contribute to the sales of the business, because
no, they're not allowed to contribute to the sales.
But that's what I'm saying. There's lots of jobs that are not necessarily sales related, that will be furloughed. So yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so the next one is a candidate question. It's one that I will answer. It's another video interview question. It says, when doing a video interview, I get really nervous. I'm not confident behind the camera. What do you advise I can do to come across well? So I've actually recently written an article on this with top 5 tips, which is on our Cameo website in our news section. So please do go over there and have a little look. But in summary, the 5 points are: firstly, choose a reliable device. Make sure that you've got good signal, it's got lots of charge, or it's plugged in, and download all the necessary apps as well, so that you are ready to go. The second thing is choose your stage, choose your background. So make sure it's a professional backdrop, you've got good light. They say that natural lighting is the best, and you're in a quiet environment. The third thing is dress for success. So there is no difference between meeting somebody face to face in person or over a video call. It's important to make a good first impression. Absolutely make sure that you are dressed appropriately. If in doubt, professional dress is the way forward. The fourth thing is mind your language, your body and your voice. So sit still, don't shuffle, make sure that you are sitting up straight looking at the camera, and also keep your head centered. It's really important as well not to let your eyes wander off as you're thinking too much and get distracted by something in the room. And if it is that you need to refer to your notes and you need to glance down, that's absolutely fine. It's very natural to do that, but just make sure you return back up to center to be able to continue your conversation and engage with the interviewer. And then lastly, be ready and waiting. So get online 10 minutes before, make sure everything is working, the lighting is right, you've cleared the backdrop if there's anything there that you don't want to be in place, turn off any radios or any noise that's happening, get your interview notes ready there to hand. And referring back to the question we had before, by having everything there, by being ready, it'll help relax you so that when it does start, you feel familiar, you feel relaxed and prepared. So Next one is actually for Julie. It's another candidate question. I'm out of work and finding the job market to be really slow. What can I do to keep myself focused, my skills fresh, and my brain engaged?
Well, that's a nice, easy one. You just got to keep in routine. It's so easy to get out of routine very, very quickly before you know it. So I would say routine, self-learning, education, and get some good reading material. Take advantage of all the free and low-cost material that's out there. There's LinkedIn Learning, that isn't free, but it's a small monthly cost. Udemy, EDX, they're low-cost and free courses on those sites, and they cover things from business management to Microsoft courses, just to improve your Excel, or if you're really adventurous, and there's some really good programming IT courses as well, which I'll stay away from. For books, I would say download your Audible books, get an Audible account. They're offering lots of free content as well. They announced, I think, the day before yesterday. And my personal recommend would be The Chimp Paradox, which is amazing.
Right.
It's old, but it's a classic. Tracy's got a thumb. Where's my thumb? But it's just
an oldie but a goodie.
It is a goodie. I've just reread that actually. Well, I re-listened. But it's so good for confidence, happiness, and it makes you really tame your chimp, which I love.
I find Stephen Peters' voice just quite calming, actually.
Yeah, I've been listening to him in the shower while I'm out running. All the time I'm listening, thinking, yeah, come on, chimp. It's such a good book, and I would really recommend that above anything. But yeah, keep in routine and just take advantage. There's so much stuff out there now.
Yeah, we're so lucky, aren't we? The online content that's available at the moment, so many exercise classes that are free for people to enjoy, and yoga and meditation, and all those bits that are keeping our well-being protected as much as possible in these times.
Definitely, really... exercises. I've never seen so many people exercise in all my life.
Who needs more?
What's that, Tracy?
I said Stephen Peters and Joe Wicks, who needs more?
No, I've never seen so many people exercise. It's so funny, it's so good.
It's wonderful.
Walking, running, biking, yoga.
I know, and we can because we've got lovely sunshine at the moment, so we're all enjoying it in different ways, which is good.
Yoga's tricky though. I'm not as flexible as I thought. Good for the mind, not sure about the body yet.
Thank you, Jules. That's great. And then the last question is actually for Emma. So this is a client and candidate question because we've received quite a lot regarding holiday whilst being on furlough. So we have kind of combined it together. So if you could, Emma, can you please qualify, is holiday accrued whilst on furlough, and how can an employer manage the excess holiday once furlough stops?
Okay, so the easy answer is absolutely. Holidays accrue whilst you're on furlough. There is still a huge amount of debate about whether you can enforce holiday whilst employees are on furlough. Okay, and the reason I'll say this is a few weeks ago I was sitting at my desk and I thought, okay, well, this is great, people are being furloughed, it's fantastic, the government are giving people back 80% up to $2,500. This is going to really help businesses. But actually the minute the sort of social distancing measures are relaxed, and of course we don't know when that will be yet, everybody's going to want to go on holiday.
Oh, gosh.
So you imagine, desperate to go on holiday.
Yeah.
You imagine if you're a business owner and all of a sudden, you are back to business as usual, and then you've got 50%, 60%, 100% of your staff all wanting to go on holiday. That is going to become unmanageable. And also that's the time when as a business you need everybody to be around and all hands on deck to help get the business up and running again. So one of the things I've been suggesting to clients, if you think about sometimes August shutdown, Christmas shutdown, a lot of businesses do ask their employees way in advance to actually book holiday over August or over December, for example. So the key with that is if you're an employer, you have to give employees double the notice of the holiday you want them to take. So ignore furlough for 1 second. If you've not got staff on furlough, but you still want to be managing that holiday explosion, you need to think about giving people notice of when you want them to take holidays. So that's point one. The second point is around whether you as an employer can enforce holidays during furlough. So there are two schools of thought here. One school of thought is yes, you can, as long as you still give them that notice. The other school of thought is no, you can't, because they're being furloughed, they're being paid at 80%. However, you could still top up whilst they're on holiday to the 100%, because anybody who is on holiday should be being paid 100% of their normal salary. So there is a real lack of understanding, because the guidance around the coronavirus job retention scheme and whether you can take holiday at that point is not clear. But my advice would be, if you really do want people to take holiday, the safest option, furlough somebody for 3 weeks, which is the minimum amount of time. Then week 4, you could actually ask them to take holiday, as long as you were giving them sufficient notice. There's clearly a big incentive then for the employee to do that, because they get paid 80% of salary for the 3 weeks at furlough and 100% of their salary for that 4th week. So that could make it attractive for people on furlough. So that's probably the safest way to manage it, and also manage your holiday explosion as and when we can get out there and have a holiday.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
Great. Yeah, wonderful, thank you. And is it right, Emma, that with holiday as well, so when the candidates, so when we're speaking to our candidates or our clients, we've been advised that when somebody has an excess holiday, that the employer can now spread that out over the next year or 2. We've been told that that may also be the case as a way of managing that holiday.
Yeah, so generally speaking, the law says you have to take your 28 days statutory leave within a 12-month period. But the law has been changed, and now people can carry over holiday for 2 years, has been agreed. However, you've got to think about the logic here. You know, the reason the holiday legislation came into place in the first place was to give people a break.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer. So although we might be either working remotely or on furlough, people are still working in some form or another if they are working. So people still need that holiday. So just because they're working from home does not mean they don't need a holiday. So again, I think businesses just need to be mindful of that extending holiday for 2 years. Think about the reason why holiday was introduced as a statutory requirement. People do need a break.
Yeah.
So for example, I've got this Friday and this Monday off as holiday. I'm not working. I'm not going to be looking at any electronic devices, any email. I need a break because I've been cooped up in my office here for the last 5 weeks really. So people still need a holiday. So just would encourage people to get that balance right.
Okay, that's great.
I think
Thank
the longer
you.
the lockdown extends, that's a really valuable point, Emma, because I think that's going to become an increasing part of well-being.
Absolutely.
That we do still need that break, even if it's still within your own garden gate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, well those are the 10 questions. They're all answered for now. And I know they've been really wonderful questions. So a big thank you again to everybody who wrote in. And we've really enjoyed doing it. I've really enjoyed doing this. I hope you all have too. And if this is something again that people would like us to do and have any further questions, then please do let us know. It's really important to talk, as we said earlier, to pull together and to remember that we're all going through this, and this is all a bit of an unusual time for us all. But if we can share anything, any top tips, guidance, advice, or even just a shoulder to kind of carry a little bit of that weight, I think we're all feeling things in different ways, then we are here to be able to help. So any questions or anything that you want to ask about the questions that we have answered, then please get in touch, let us know. But otherwise, stay safe, enjoy the sunshine, keep smiling, and we'll see you again soon.